The US and UK are happy to talk about political prisoners abroad, but they've created a political prisoner of their own. At every stage, the law has been abused in order to victimize Julian. He has been silenced, he has been disappeared. The last time Julian was allowed to attend his own court hearing was in January 2021. Every time he's requested to be there in person, those requests have been denied. Julian did nothing wrong. He exposed war crimes committed by known individuals. Those who committed the war crimes or responsible for those war crimes have not been held accountable. Julian is in prison because Wikileaks is a publisher that specializes in the secrets that states keep the most hidden. Julian revealed war crimes by the US government, the world's superpower, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the fact that it had normalized, institutionalized torture. And that superpower took revenge. The position of the UK right now is that it will extradite a publisher to the country that conspired to murder him. How can the UK government even contemplate the extradition of the man who the US was trying to assassinate? This assassination plot was as revenge for what Wikileaks had published. When I read the story, I was relieved in a way, because this is the reality that Julian has been facing. And there has been a lot of gaslighting. For years when he was in the embassy, the refrain was that Julian was paranoid, that no one was trying to prosecute him. The only one that was keeping him in the embassy was himself. And as soon as he was arrested, the true reality was there for everyone to see. So it was extremely important that this came to light. The story has over 30 US intelligence officials, including very senior and named, going on record and saying that the US government was actively plotting to assassinate Julian inside the UK. This is incredible. This is a country plotting to assassinate a journalist because of what he has published. This is precisely what the UK government criticizes in other states. Conspiring to murder a journalist is wrong. It's wrong if Russia does it, and it's wrong if the United States does it too. But there's a lot of this story that we still don't know. How much did the UK government know? How far was the UK government willing to go along with the US government's plans under the CIA directorship of Mike Pompeo? These are questions that remain unanswered.
Why does the United States destroy its reputation like that? Because the desire for authority is much higher than the desire for morality. The desire to be seen as a vicious authority that can terrorize people is higher than the desire to be seen as an authority that commands respect as a result of its integrity.
The United States government is the only one that has committed crimes here. Julian has done nothing wrong. By prosecuting Julian for doing the right thing, they're also denying the existence and the validity of what he exposed. Because the United States is not a member of the International Criminal Court, the only accountability that exists is the exposure through Wikileaks of the fact that these people were killed. So by prosecuting Julian, they're not just prosecuting Julian, they're putting the memory of all those people in prison too.
Light them all up. They're right in. Keep shooting.
There's no question that the information that Wikileaks published about the Iraq and Afghan wars and Guantanamo Bay was in the public interest. Julian is being prosecuted under the 1917 Espionage Act. That act was enacted during the First World War. US constitutional lawyers have long worried that the broad wording of the Espionage Act would be repurposed in order to go after the press. The Trump administration decided to prosecute Julian and Wikileaks because the agenda of the Trump administration was to target the press. The US First Amendment is the gold standard globally on press freedom, and the prosecution against Julian is the single greatest attack there has been on the First Amendment, and that is Trump's legacy. My message to Joe Biden is that you are furthering the worst legacy of the Trump administration. Don't let this also be your legacy. Drop this case. If you don't drop this case will be used by future administrations in order to silence dissent, in order to silence the press. This is the most serious attack on press freedom there has ever been. The United States government is saying that any person, anywhere, is bound by the US Espionage Act. This is a completely absurd and dangerous proposition. Julian is not a US citizen. He's an Australian citizen who was working as a journalist in the United Kingdom. He owes no allegiance to the US government. He received information from a source, Chelsea Manning, and he published it. That's all he did. And now the United States is threatening Julian with a life sentence, 175 years. It advances the absurd notion that a country can limit press freedom beyond its borders, that it can crack down on foreign journalists abroad. Imagine if Turkey now uses the same logic that the US has used to say that a British journalist in France should be extradited to Turkey because that journalist exposed some state-sponsored crime of Turkey's, or Saudi Arabia or China. Every journalist should be alarmed about this, because if they can do it to someone as high profile as Julian, then everyone else can suffer the same fate. The fact that people have such a poor understanding about this case is down to the media. It is the media's responsibility to properly report this case, and it has not been properly reported. And that's why the public is so ignorant about it.
My favorite allegation is that I'm a cat torturer. No, seriously, AFP, Agence France Presse, put that everywhere, even into New York Times. I don't really know where to start for people who aren't familiar with this kind of disgusting machine that the media is.
Now, why has the media reported so poorly about this case? Part of the reason is because Julian is a media critic. He's not just a publisher, but he has been very critical of the way that the media has reported, for example, Wikileaks publications. Wikileaks also poses a challenge to the legacy media because the Wikileaks model is what Julian calls scientific journalism, to publish original source documents alongside the analysis in order to allow the reader to draw their own conclusions, to access the same information that the journalists did in order to assess the material themselves. And that's why Wikileaks is such an important resource for academics and historians, not just journalists. Because Julian's case is a political case, it's entirely up to the political circumstances what is possible and what is not possible. The case is so outrageous that it should be thrown out. It is also politically dangerous and counterproductive for the United Kingdom. By prosecuting Julian, they lose their ability to claim the moral high ground.
We have seen already from Vladimir Putin's regime in the use of the munitions that they have already been dropping on innocent civilians, Mr. Speaker, in my view, already fully qualifies as a war crime. And I know that the ICC prosecutor is already investigating, and I'm sure the whole House will support that.
The fact the UK is now calling out war crimes in relation to the Ukraine, it follows that the UK should not extradite a publisher who put evidence of war crimes into the public domain.
There does appear to be evidence of war crimes in this material. An example is the Task Force 373 HIMARS missile strike on a house which killed 7 children. Well, we would like to see this material, the revelations that this material gives, be taken seriously, investigated by governments, and new policies put in place as a result, if not prosecutions of those people who have committed abuses.
Since the 11th of April 2019, Julian has been inside Belmarsh High Security Prison, which is the harshest prison in the UK, known as Britain's Guantanamo Bay. He's been inside Belmarsh Prison day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, in a small prison cell on his own for most of the day. His interactions are with prisoners, some of which are dangerous. He is suffering greatly. He suffered a mini stroke in October, and obviously that's a sign that his health is in serious decline. It's also a difficult struggle for him mentally. Julian suffers from clinical depression. He has all his adult life. And it's obviously very difficult for him spending so much time in isolation away from his children and from his family and friends. I have 2 children with Julian. They are 3 and 4. Our eldest was born when Julian was still in the embassy in 2017, and he would go to the embassy to visit Julian. We kept it secret so a friend would come in posing as his father, until a guard from the embassy approached me outside the embassy and said that I shouldn't bring the baby in anymore because they had been instructed to steal a nappy in order to analyze the baby's DNA. Our youngest just turned 3. He was a few weeks old when Julian was first arrested. And he's only ever seen his father inside Belmarsh prison. For both of them, the only memories they have of Julian is inside Belmarsh prison. Because I don't know how long our children will have with their father, if they just have a few months maybe, before Julian's taken to the United States and will most likely lose his life there. I try to make their experience with their father as enjoyable and light as possible. I don't talk about the fact that we're going to a prison. I've just said that there are bad people that are preventing Julian from coming home, but that he wants to be at home. But obviously when they go into the prison, they experience the prison. They walk past the razor wire, they get sniffed by the sniffer dogs, they have to get searched multiple times going into the prison, inside their mouth and under their feet. So they experience it themselves. But I don't want the experience to be scary or intimidating. So I do my best to make it a normal situation. The only thing that matters to me is to be able to reunite my family again. Julian has been deprived of being able to see his children grow up day to day. All we want is to be a normal family. The fact that he's being deprived from his family for no reason at all, just out of a spiteful, cruel sense of vengeance by the superpower who he exposed, has to come to an end. No one should be treated this way. I ask each of you to help me fight for Julian. Go to don'textraditeassange.com. There's a tab that says Take Action. Take all the actions where it says Take Action. Write to your MP. Come to the protests. There may be a way that you are specially placed to help me free Julian. Please contact me directly. Every person can contribute to help fight for his freedom, help bring him home, help reunite Julian with our young children. It is incredibly important that stories that don't get enough airtime in the mainstream media are able to be covered elsewhere. I encourage each person that can afford it to support independent journalists, independent media like Double Down News. So if you can, please support Double Down News on Patreon.